Hey, what's going on, guys? Greg here today, bringing us a Call of Duty Modern Warfare gameplay commentary. What you're going to be watching in the background is two tactical nukes. So this first one is using the MP5 on Anya Palace, and the second one is going to be using the MP7 on Anya Palace. Both are pretty quick, and hopefully you guys will enjoy that. I was playing with Ricky Phyllis and Grim, and this was from our collab the other day, so hopefully you guys will enjoy this gameplay. So today's video's topic was suggested from a subscriber of mine over at my Discord server, and if you haven't already joined that, please do. The link is in the description below. It's where you guys can interact with me as well as other members of my community. But moving on, today's video topic is the best tips for going for nukes, especially if you are playing solo or in a party. Depending on what you're doing, I'll have this broken down for you. So let's go ahead and get into this topic. So the absolute best game mode if you're playing solo, I'm going to recommend 10v10 Mosh Pit, and the reason being for this is 10v10 Mosh Pit has some really good maps for getting easy kills on spawns. And what I mean by this is like Euphrates Bridge. If you have an advanced UAV and you're pushed all the way up by yourself, let's say at the A flag, and they are spawning behind the fob, you can absolutely run that spawn and almost nuke up off one advanced UAV. It is absolutely crazy. And there are some other really good maps too, like Ramaza, Gun Runner's not bad, Grozna Raid is good, Arklov Peak has some nice spawns. Like, there's a lot of maps in that playlist that have really good spawns for getting fast tactical nukes, as well as just getting high streaks in general. Crash is also another one, but you're going to have to hope that the enemies on the other team are not going to be super sweaty, because then Crash is going to turn into quite possibly your worst nightmare, and you're never just going to be able to break out of the spawn trap unless someone on the other team just ends up throwing the game and flips the spawn. But anyways, so Ground War is really good for parties, and the reason I say Ground War is good for parties is because the advanced UAV in Ground War is super strong as well, and that's because there's 32 people on the other team, but it's also because you can do a lot of work with that, and then if you have your teammates also running the advanced, you guys can like basically snowball advanced after advanced after advanced, and it's really easy for your teammates to streak up to get that 12 kill streak because there's 32 players on each team. And also, not to make mention that there's little to no skill-based matchmaking in Ground War. If anything, there's more team balancing. So yeah, keep that the way you will. But the absolute worst game modes are Shoot House and Shipment, simply just because of how the spawns work. I would never recommend going for nukes in there, unless, of course, you're manipulating matchmaking, but we're not talking about that here. So moving on to the next part of this commentary, we're going to be talking about your class setups, and what I mean by this is your perks and your field upgrades. So for 10v10, you're going to want to either use EOD or Quick Fix as your perk 1, Ghost or Restock as your perk 2, Tracker or Tune Up as your perk 3, and then for your field upgrades, we're going to use Field Upgrade Pro and have Dead Silence and Munitions Box. For Ground War, I would recommend EOD, Ghost, and Tracker, or Tune Up. And then for your field upgrades munitions box, you can just run that if you are afraid of getting the Field Upgrade Pro glitch, or if you are not too worried about that glitch and you would rather just risk it for a biscuit, go ahead and do Field Upgrade Pro and do Munitions Box or Stopping Power. Now, the reason I recommend Stopping Power is because of the damage over range. This is really effective on some of the Ground War weapons you'll see me recommend, such as the AK-47 and the Scar 17, but whenever we get there, we'll talk about that. So, next up is our kill streaks, and for 10v10, there's only 3 kill streaks I really recommend, and that is the VTOL Jet, the Chopper Gunner, and the Advanced UAV. And the reasons I recommend these is because it's going to be a little bit sweatier with the skill-based matchmaking being in the game. So VTOL Jet will just basically help watch an area of the map for you. Chopper Gunner, you save this until you die, so that way if you die for streak, it's not too frustrating, and at least you have a Chopper Gunner to just take out your frustrations on the enemies. And the Advanced UAV, of course, because it's going to help you go ahead and get that tactical nuke. Now, for Ground War, I recommend running the UAV, the VTOL Jet, the White Phosphorus, or the Advanced UAV, and the reason I don't recommend Chopper Gunner or anything like that is because there's 32 people on the other team. It doesn't take very long to shoot down a Chopper Gunner, so I just don't really find it all that effective. White Phosphorus is great for rotations, and that's the reason I'd recommend that. It also does a lot of damage, and it's really good in Ground War, but the UAV you can use as well because there's 32 people on the other team, and generally people are using their Warzone classes in Ground War from what I noticed, so that means they're not going to be running Ghost, they're actually going to be running Overkill, so using that UAV can get you a quick advance, and if you don't believe me, just check out the gameplay in the background. Now for the best guns, there are actually a lot of guns you can use in Ground War, but in 10v10, the CR56 AMAX, the M4A1, MP7, MP5, Grau 556, and Ram 7 are all very good options. I personally don't like to use the M4A1 and MP5 in 10v10 just because I feel that they are just super easy weapons to use, as well as the majority of other people are using them, and I'm trying to just try to do something a little bit more interesting. But in Ground War, since there's not really all that much skill-based matchmaking, you see a lot of weapon variety, so it doesn't really matter. But in Ground War, the Kilo 141, the Grau 556, AK-47, Scar 17, M4A1, MP5, M13, MP7, Ram 7, and CR56 AMAX are all amazing guns to use. And finally, we're going to go ahead over for the attachments. Now, I pretty much use the exact same attachments on all of my guns except for the MP5. I have a collapsible stock on just because I feel like the gun just doesn't really have all that much recoil, especially if you put on like a commando grip or whatever. It's pretty easy to offset the negatives of the collapsible stock. But for 10v10, I recommend running a medium barrel, which is basically the Corvus barrel equivalent for all the guns, like if we're going to look at the M4. So I'd recommend having that because it's going to give you recoil control, bullet velocity, and damage range increases. The monolithic suppressor, just because it extends your range and bullet velocity. And then commando foregrip because it's going to reduce your horizontal recoil, add aiming stability, which is going to make your recoil more consistent, and also it reduces your vertical recoil just by a little bit. And then an extended magazine, 45, 50 round mag, depending on whatever your gun permits. Don't have the heaviest magazine or biggest magazine, and then stipple grip tape. Now for Ground War, it's going to be a little bit different. I'd recommend a monolithic suppressor, the longest barrel because you're going to want to get the most recoil control, most bullet velocity, and damage range. Commando foregrip, same as before, but the 60 round magazine because you're going to want to have a lot more ammo since there's 32 players on the other team. And last but not least, stipple grip tape, which stays the same. So going back to stopping power and why I recommended this is if you're going to use something like a Scar 17, maybe even the Kilo, or an AK-47, let's talk about the AK for example. The AK is a 2-tap to the chest across the entire map whenever you have stopping power loaded in. So I'd highly recommend trying this out if you haven't already, and basically you can counter snipers with it as long as the sniper did not see you first. You obviously want to still play it smart, but you can basically just tap snipers across the entire map. The Kilo is going to be like 1 or 2 less bullets to kill at long range, which is really nice. Same thing with something like the Scar. The Scar is like a 4-shot kill across the map, so if you're going to use stopping power, it's going to bring it down to 3. And overall, it's just going to help out a lot. And right here, shooting through objects like this that have like blocked areas, you just lose aim assist and it just becomes super awkward. And honestly, there's just so many areas of this game that you lose aim assist in, so you just have to be careful of those as well, which I can make a whole video on that if you guys would be interested on areas that you can watch out for, so that way you know not to shoot through it and you'll lose aim assist. But anyways, that's the video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Hopefully this will help you guys get some tactical nukes, and if it does, let me know in the comment section below, and let me know if you guys do anything different for your streaks. I would be interested in hearing. Anyways, I'll see you guys all in the next video. Peace.